I've been playing Pokemon Shield for the past 6 days, recording this on Wednesday, and this is basically the only thing I've done for the last 6 days. And I haven't quite finished the story yet. I got interrupted in the last stream just after the finals with the plot that gets started right before what's going to be the champion battle. So I haven't done that part yet. Haven't done that plot or the champion battle or any of the post game yet. And I also haven't had a chance to just let the game sit and just like really think about it, really process it. So this is actually going to be just a kind of broad strokes look at my first impressions of the game. And I will talk in more detail as we go. There will be videos about some of the specific elements later on. And I will do a Tin Tower Talks review and conversation just like I did for Let's Go last year. So what did I think of it? So I would begin by talking a little bit about some game design elements, because I think there were some really, really good choices here. For example, I think one of the big ones that really stood out to me was the distinction between TMs, the technical machines, and TRs, the technical records. If you remember in my video about the difficulty of Pokemon, I talked about infinite TMs making things easier because it removes a level of resource management. And this kind of puts it back in because the TM moves are all kind of middle level kind of moves. They are not especially good moves. They are kind of useful, but they're also not the most powerful. But then you have the really powerful moves in TRs that you can only get a limited amount of. Or not necessarily a limited amount of, but like you have to work towards it, and each item that you get is a single use. So if you want to teach Earthquake twice, you need 2 Earthquake TRs. I also thought that the level curve was really well done overall, especially considering that there's that team-wide experience, essentially a experience share that you don't have the option to turn off, which was the same in Let's Go. But this time, I think because the experience is also calculated based on level differences, it works much better. So you don't very quickly become over-leveled, and you also don't have to struggle to get your Pokemon to catch up. So without trying to keep my Pokemon all at a consistent level, it was fairly easy to do that, and that's how I like it. I like it when my Pokemon have pretty even levels throughout the team, and I also didn't end up becoming over-leveled or even becoming under-leveled, even though I did almost no grinding. This was perfect in that sense. I didn't have to worry about levels throughout the entire game. And still, my levels were mostly on par with the levels of the opponents, and even at levels of the wild Pokemon, which I thought was really interesting that in some cases, wild Pokemon had higher levels than trainers. But things did change a little bit getting towards the end of the game. When I was doing the finals battles, my levels were a little bit higher. If we had the option of turning off that shared experience, I might have had a better time like that, because I prefer to battle under-leveled. I like to be at a disadvantage, and in the end, my time was a bit too easy. And that actually applies to most of the really important battles, where even when my levels were the same, or even if I was a little bit below, basically just having a super effective move was enough to give me the advantage and make that battle kind of easy. There were other battles where I only had trouble because of things that I chose. My battle against Nessa, for example, I only had trouble in that battle because I purposefully used Dynamax too early. I did win in the end because I had type advantages, but like that was my own doing. Things did get a little bit better about halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway through the game, when I changed the battle style from Switch to Set. So switching to Set did make things a little bit more challenging, but it wasn't such a significant difference overall. It was noticeable, but not too significant. I haven't spent too much time in the wild area, but to me that feels like a really, really good choice, because it gives, like, the whole way that the thing is set up, it gives you so much to explore, and because different Pokemon show up at different weather patterns and so on, you have to spend a lot of time there. It's just a very different Pokemon experience. Being able to control the camera was fantastic. I wish they'd done that for any route, even for cities. Doing max raids, I've done some with viewers. It was a lot of fun. All of that, really good. And all the rewards for max raids are also really good. Makes grinding easier because you get so many experience candies. It's really easy to just grab a whole bunch of experience and then quickly raise up your weakest Pokemon. There was a lot of talk about graphics before the games came out, and it's true that these games don't look like super realistic. They don't look like Breath of the Wild. But the thing is that, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't need to. It's not trying to be the same as Breath of the Wild, to be on that level of graphics. It's a different style. It's a different approach. This style works really well for a Pokemon game. But with that being said, I do wish that the battle animations were a little bit more dynamic, because even though now we're in HD and the battles look very pretty, in terms of the move animations and how the Pokemon move in battle, we're still seeing essentially the same kinds of animations that we've seen since Generation 6. So Generation 6 came out in 2012. So this has been 7 years of battles looking basically the same. And considering that one of the justifications that Game Freak gave for the elimination of a large part of the Pokedex, for not including them in this game at all, was graphics and animations, I haven't seen that. I fully support quote-unquote Dexit, but for different reasons, because of, controlling and improving the meta, and because for the long term, including every Pokemon would become unmanageable. I fully support it, but because one of the justifications they gave was animations, I was looking to that, and I didn't see enough there to really match up with their discourse. And in a similar vein, the cities that you visit, almost all of them give the impression of being huge. You approach Motostoke or Hammerlock, or especially Winden, and you see these giant sprawling cities and you think, wow, I'm going to spend so much time in here. And then you actually go exploring and it turns out that all those buildings behind the gym you can't see, well, that's not actually part of the game. All of these doors over here that look like you would be able to go in or like explore something, those are just cosmetic. And especially in Motostoke, where you have 2 bookstores and 2 record stores that are just there for aesthetics and have no function. If you watched my previous videos, you know that I was really excited for there to be bookstores in the Pokemon world, and there were also record stores, so that was super exciting until I actually walked up to them and they were nothing. The bookstores were a single line of text, not even really flavor text, talking about the magazines that were for sale. That just seemed like a really missed opportunity to build lore on top of that, even if we couldn't go into the store, even if there's not books that you can actually buy. That I knew that was an unrealistic dream of mine. But there's 2 bookstores and they both have the same line of text, and that's it. And more importantly, there's the record stores, and the TRs are technical records, but you can't buy technical records at the record store. There's a guy that gives you one, and that's it. So that was very disappointing. Okay, let's talk about the most important thing in these games, the Pokemon. As far as the distribution of Pokemon, I was a little bit dissatisfied with how it was done early on in the game. Because early on, you go through a route and you're finding tons of new Pokemon. Pokemon that you've never tried before, or in my case, Pokemon you've never seen before. So you definitely try to catch everything. And then very quickly, you have a full team of new Pokemon and you're already having to make decisions about who's going to be on your team or not. And that was a bit overwhelming for the start. And then you make it to the wild area, where almost everything you see is old Pokemon. And because in my playthrough specifically, I was trying to focus only on new Pokemon, the wild area ended up being kind of boring because it was all things I'd already seen. Thankfully, as we went along, things evened out a little more. More new Pokemon started showing up in the wild areas. More old Pokemon started showing up in the routes. So the rate of encounter slowed down a little bit. It was still pretty good. Almost every route had a new Pokemon for me to discover and be surprised by. But it wasn't overwhelming. And overall, I'm really happy with the designs of this generation. There are some flops. There always are. And I really look forward to doing the best and worst designs of Generation 8. I'm going to let things sit a little bit longer before I try to look at that so I can have a more objective, more critical look. But overall, I'm really happy with the designs. Things do seem to be a little bit more cartoony, which isn't my personal taste in Pokemon. But overall, well executed. I'm happy with the starters and starter evolutions that I've seen so far. I haven't seen all of them. Haven't seen Scorbunny's evolution yet. I'm also really, really happy with all of the Galar forms designs that I've seen. Again, haven't seen all of them yet, but things like Zigzagoon, very happy with that. Stunfisk, fantastic. Fantastic design. I loved it. That was like such a surprise when I first encountered it. It was perfect. I'm overall really happy with Ponyta and Rapidash and even Darumaka and Darmanitan. Not so much Mr. Mime. That was a bit of an odd one. Overall, really good, really interesting designs, and I'm really happy that they didn't just stick with Kanto Pokemon. They went to other generations too, so that's better. And it makes sense that they would want to focus on Kanto because those are the older designs. Those are the ones that need an improvement more. And I was really, really surprised. I did not see this coming at all. Evolutions, new split evolutions to Galar form Pokemon. So I think the first one that I found was Berserker. I was expecting my Galarian Meowth to evolve into a Persian, and then it evolved into a Berserker. And that kind of blew my mind. The Gigantamax designs, though, I feel like they're a bit over the top. Some of them are really interesting. I liked Gengar. I thought that went in an interesting direction. Gigantamax Centiskorch, I thought worked really well. But then there's others that are just really weird, like Duraludon. I don't understand Duraludon's Gigantamax form. Even Alcremie seems a bit excessive. I know that that's kind of the point, but they don't really do it for me. I prefer their more down-to-earth designs. As far as the story of the game, I felt that the progression through the game was very, very directed. There were some really kind of awkward roadblocks. Like, you can't go this way because my Corviknight is tired, even though you can clearly walk around it. And those things bother me, because it seems just like, we don't want you to go this way, so we're putting a random thing here to stop you from going. And so the whole game ended up feeling very much like, this is where you go, this is where you go, this is where you go. Despite the fact that they have a wild area that allows you to roam freely, and it's a very, very large wild area, the game still felt extremely one-directional. So I was definitely a little bit disappointed by that. But I did like that the quote-unquote plot of the game builds very slowly. So throughout most of the game, you get to focus on the gym challenge, and the people who should be responsible for taking care of other problems say they are going to take care of other problems. So Leon is taking care of things. Sonia is also taking care of things. You have the chairman. Those characters are people who should have the responsibility on their shoulders, and they actually do. So this isn't like in most other Pokemon games where you, the player character, who haven't even become the champion, haven't even earned all 8 badges yet, you're the one who is expected to take down Team Rocket or defeat a legendary Pokemon or, whatever, and essentially save the world or save the region. We don't have that. And that's actually really refreshing. I've just gotten to the point where the climax of the story seems to happen, and I haven't played through that part yet, so I don't know what happens, but I really appreciate that when when the player is going to be required to kind of step up and help stop some big cataclysm, whatever it is, it's already when you've beaten the finals. And even though you haven't challenged the champion himself yet, you have earned the right to do so. So you've already proven that you are a very capable trainer. It makes sense that in this case, even though you're very young, you're a very powerful trainer, and therefore you can handle this. As far as the lore of the Galar region, I find that it's really similar to how they did the cities. It really gives the impression, the facade of having a very rich history, very rich culture, and a lot of lore. But so far, I've only seen one legend. And it is a legend that has multiple facets, multiple versions, so that's very interesting, but it's still just the one legend. And I appreciate that that probably means there's very few legendary Pokemon, but still, I would have expected there to be more different stories. All of that being said, though, I am really very, very happy overall with this game. I've had a ton of fun with it, and I think they've made a lot of really good choices, steps in the right direction towards a perfect Pokemon game. I really look forward to finding out how the story ends and having my battle with Leon. And actually, if you want to join me, I will be streaming that on Sunday at noon right here on YouTube, noon Pacific time. We'll pick up from right after the last battle of the finals, do whatever story comes there. We'll do the champion battle and as much of the post game as we can. And depending on how much time there is, maybe even some exploring of the world, trying to catch some more Pokemon. We'll see. Please tell me in the comments, though, your first impressions of the game, where you agree and disagree with me, and if there's something else that stood out to you, make sure to let me know that as well. I really look forward to talking through it with you. I'm Umbreon Libris. I'll see you in the next chapter.